All right, so listen up. I've got something powerful coming up, and I need you to be in the room for this. I'm hosting a free live webinar called From Pain to Purpose: How to Heal What's Hidden so you can finally feel fulfilled. And if you've ever felt like success was silencing your soul, this is your wake-up call. In this live session, we're going to unpack why high achievers struggle with feeling stuck, how unhealed emotional wounds affect your relationships and identity, and how to finally reconnect with the strongest and truest version of you. This is not just another motivational moment. This is your turning point. So don't wait, walk. I need you to run. Spots are going to be limited, and we're only doing this live. So make sure that you click the show notes in this episode and get registered, and I'll see you there on purpose. Well, hello, family. Welcome back to another episode of Unmute Your Mic podcast, the show where we give voice to the unspoken and create space for high achievers like you to finally hear the truth behind your own silence. Today's episode is called Success Didn't Heal It. Have you ever found yourself asking, why do I still feel empty, even after I've made it? I know you're probably thinking, I ask myself this all the time. And quite honestly, I've been there too. And so in today's episode, we're going to unpack why you're feeling that way and what you can do about it. So right now, I'm sure you're thinking, I've checked all the boxes. I've got the degree, I've got the accolades, I've got the career, the family, but still I feel this nagging emptiness that success can't seem to touch. And quite frankly, you don't know why. You're tired, not just physically, but emotionally. You're tired of performing. You're tired of being praised for what you do when no one sees who you are. You're tired of thinking, I should be happy by now. So why am I still not fulfilled? If that's where you are, this episode will help you do three things. One, you're going to name the emotional wound that success has been covering up, because you have to be able to name it. Naming the pain. You're going to recognize how achievements have become a coping mechanism, not a cure. And then step 3, we're going to start healing the root, not just soothing the symptoms. So by the end of this episode, you're going to walk away with practical tools to create inner alignment, not just external accolades. Reconnect to your worth without needing another win, and take your first bold step toward healing what's still hurting beneath your hustle. So if you're ready to stop outsourcing your value to your victories, let's get into it. So I want to start out in this segment by talking about achievement ain't medicine. And I told y'all in our last episode, I am born and raised from Louisiana. So sometimes we just say things a little differently, okay? For my international, global listeners. So I hope you enjoy my dialect. But achievement ain't medicine. And here's the truth. Achievement is a reward, but it's not a remedy. Promotions don't treat rejection. That's why the last time you got that promotion on your job, you thought like as soon as you get this promotion, you were going to be happy, but then you got it. And not only are you not happy, you're overwhelmed and you're starting to think you may be underpaid. So promotions don't treat rejection, but what they do is distract you from it. And distractions feel like healing until they stop working. Let me prove it to you. You ever hit a goal and instantly felt like you needed a new one just to feel worthy again? That's not drive. I know you've been telling people that you're driven. No, you're chasing. That is unhealed pain in a suit. I call it the grind that gaslights you because it makes you believe the next level will finally fix what the first one didn't. But what happens when it doesn't? Because it never will. So unless you're ready to confront what success was trying to cover up, you'll never be fulfilled by the success that should be exciting you. Exciting you and fulfilling you is not the same things. And so if you've been wondering why you haven't been able to feel better about this achievement that you've gotten, or why is it that you're looking around and you have more than most people, but that still doesn't bring you calmness? Because of course, we grew up, our parents telling us, well, we got more than so-and-so, and that was supposed to be a consolation prize. But the truth is that doesn't matter at all. But we've tried to use comparison as a way to help us feel settled in who we are. But that doesn't help either. So I want to start in by dealing with the lies, because before we can get to the truth, we first have to unearth the lies that we've been telling ourselves about success, and that success whispers when this is not really true. So here goes 3 core lies that high achievers secretly believe. Lie number 1, if I achieve more, I'll finally be enough. This lie convinces you to overperform because you're underbelieving in your value. I know that just hurts your feelings. I'm going to let that sit there for you right now. Because anytime you underbelieve in your value, you never reach the full potential of worth. Lie number 2, we tell ourselves being needed equals being loved. No, that is called leeching, darling. Leeching. Leeching. You remember the leeches, right? Leeches, they attack themselves to living bodies, blood, and they suck the blood out of your body, suck life out of you. That is what being needed equals when you're overly being needed all of the time. So what's happening is you're overfunctioning. You're overfunctioning at work. You're overfunctioning at home. You're overfunctioning in your friendships. You're overfunctioning in your marriage, in that relationship. And so you're working overtime, not realizing that is feeding the lie that success is whispering to you. So you're not getting better. You're just learning how to deal with the dysfunction that you've been living with. And then you become everybody's savior. And then you get mad when no one comes to save you, because secretly we hope that someone is. We feel like, okay, I've put enough saving out there that somebody should look back and say, let me come and save him. Let me come and save her. But how many times do people come back to save you? They don't. And then last but not least, the last lie that we tell ourselves, which is one of the most dangerous ones, is that if I slow down, I'll fall apart. So rest feels dangerous to us. Stillness feels lazy. But the truth is, stillness is where healing starts. And I had to, in my own journey, really start understanding that stillness does not mean I'm lazy. I was absolutely the working little bee, okay? I'm always working. I'm always grinding. I'm always. And what I had to realize on my own personal journey of healing post-divorce was that sitting still is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. Because last week, as we talked about rest or restoration, you can't have restoration. You can't have rest without the word rest. And so whoever told you that resting was an issue had an issue. They were passing that trauma on to you. And now you've adopted it. And unfortunately, if you are a parent, you may possibly be pushing this same cycle on your children. And that's a real thing. Trust me, I've got 2 sons. It is a very real thing. And so in order to understand, I say this all the time, in order to understand the fruit, you've got to understand the root. So let's get into the topic about the root. Where's the root of it all? How did you even start this? Well, unhealed attachment. I remember when I decided to write Purposeful Pain. And when I decided to write my first book, Purposeful Pain, Give Me Your Isaac, I was not an author. I was a banker. So my background was 16 years in the banking industry. So I was in banking, I was in sales, I was in leadership. I had no idea I would ever be an author, never thought that would ever happen for me. I never had the desire for it to happen to me. And I remember when I went through my divorce, and I'll never forget having a conversation with my mother, and she said, just don't move on too fast. Whenever this divorce is over, just don't move on too fast. Because again, I am known in my family as a go-getter, someone who's always doing something, blah, 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 right? So because of that, she said, don't move on too fast. And I can recall someone else telling me that, like, hey, don't move on too fast. Like this I call it unsolicited advice. The advice when people give you that you didn't ask them for because they could have kept their mouth shut. I was getting unsolicited advice. And that advice was saying, don't move on too fast. But because when you are in sales, there's no such thing as don't move on too fast. You have to move on and you need to move on fast. But the issue is when we move on fast and we have not learned the lesson, that's where the problem comes. And so when I started my journey of understanding purpose, and I remember saying to her, well, I don't know what that means, but what I do know is no one's telling me I should heal. So I'm going to try that. And I'm just going to let people be on my journey. I'm just going to journal this journey of healing. And we'll see how this turns out. Because no one's recommended healing. Everybody recommended holding a space, stationary. But nobody recommended healing. And it wasn't until I started to understand the science of myself is where I came across attachment theory. Understanding how your childhood behaviors and experiences affect your adult relationships. And so I want to tell you in this moment that the thing that you're dealing with of why you're frustrated, your nervous system is overwhelmed, you're agitated, you're cutting off everybody, it is because you're dealing with burnout. And not only are you dealing with burnout, you're dealing with attachment wounding. And it's dressed up in achievement. Follow me here. Stay with me because it's going to help you today. When you were younger, you probably had to earn love. Stay invisible to stay safe. Be the strong one, be the perfect one. So now love has become a performance instead of a place to rest. And deep down, you're not chasing goals. You're chasing safety. You're chasing belonging. You're chasing someone saying, I see you, not just your success, but your soul. What you're chasing is significance. So when we look at the attachment theory, and this is a scientific, psychological theory, so you can read the research on it. And this is something I eat, breathe, and sleep, because again, you can't understand the fruit when you don't understand the root. And the root of it is that in attachment theory, you're taught that what happens between your birth and 18 months, however that caregiver was in your life, your primary caregiver, what happens is you take on the model of who they were in that season. So although you were alive between birth and 18 months, you don't recall what was happening. You don't know who changed your dirty diaper. You don't know who gave you a bottle, but your body, because the body keeps score, your body knows who did, and your body knows what type of energy was around the act. That is why it is so important that you watch people's attitude around the way they act, because the energy that is the most authentic will be found in the way they respond to the thing they're doing. So if you're only looking at the act, not the action, if you're only looking at the person, not the emotion, then you will be bamboozled, thinking that people really care and they really want to do these things. And quite frankly, baby, they don't. They don't want to do for you. They're not really givers. They're only there to take from you, but you don't know it because why? You're modeling a behavior that you don't even remember picking up. So if you have an avoidant parent, You know, the one who who never says anything. They act like they're the peacemaker. They don't want to ruffle feathers, but they have trust issues and they don't trust anybody around their child. If that was how your parent was in your forming years, that's why you act like that. Oh, I know I'm in the vein today. Just hold on. We're going to get free. Most of us, 75% of us, research shows 75% of us are avoidant. The reason 75% of us have an avoidant attachment style is because an avoidant attachment style is connected to survival. So to those of my African American Black listeners that are listening in, let me let you in on a secret. I want you to lean all the way in on this one. When you hear people say we're living in the trauma of our ancestors, this is what they're talking about. The reason that you are acting in the pattern that you're in is because of the programming you don't remember gaining. So if you have an anxious attachment style, and your mother was very anxious, always jumping up, I'm going to get this, I'm going to do this, worried about everything. You know, the worry warts, they worry about every little thing that's about to happen. The reason you over worry, overthink, over, it's because of the programming. And the thing about attachment theory is that you're also leaning on the honesty of your parent or your caregiver, for them to be honest with you about how were they feeling. They may be happy now, but you're 40. No, tell me, how did you feel when you first peed on a stick and they said you're pregnant? What was your first thought? Tell me when you got that text that said, I'm pregnant. Sir, what was your first thought? How did you react? Then when the baby came, how were you? And this is so important work to really understand the science of you, because the issue that we find in our relationships, especially across African American culture, we were bred to survive like a slave. Slaves were to be hidden. Slaves were to be quiet. Slaves were to do what master says and have no voice and have no opinion and have no desire to learn. That is slavery. And unfortunately, 2025, you're still a slave. I don't trust nobody. I can't do this. I don't know about that. That is a slaved mentality. And that's not just connected to color. That is connected to character. So I really need you to understand that this thing of understanding your attachment style and understanding how to get in alignment with yourself first comes with you understanding the seed of who you are. Because if you don't know your pattern, you can't break your cycle. And so I hope this is really helping you in this episode today of why you're like this, because what is happening is we're passing down this generational curse of chasing acceptance and significance because we didn't have a parent who said, you're doing a great job. You know why they couldn't tell you that you were doing a great job? Because no one told them. The people, their mother and their father, some of you were raised by parents whose parents thought you're not going to be a good dad. You're not going to be a good mom. You don't know anything about children. You're a child yourself. Come on, somebody. Some of us that are teenage mothers or teenage fathers, right? So you had the pressure put on you that you were going to fail. And so you had to start mentally psyching yourself up and mentally telling yourself you're going to do great and this child is going to be perfect. And so what did you do? You made that child so perfect that they weren't allowed to be imperfect. So why you don't have grace for other people, empathy for other people? Because you've never been given it for yourself. You can't give what you've never experienced. And that is why your relationships look like the shambles you're living in. And nobody is being honest with you about this. But on this podcast, you're going to get raw conversations. And so what did our parents teach us to do? They taught us how to survive, but survival ain't thriving. And that's why you're not happy. And that's why you're unfulfilled, because you are unfulfilled because the person that poured in you had nothing to give. They were given their bare minimum and sometimes their barely their best. And now you're trying to live off of that. And that's why you're not enjoying the life that God gave you. It has nothing to do with the money or the house or the tree or the trips that you're taking. These exotic trips. You're on the pool. You're having cocktails. You having cocktails, but you are in confusion. You at clubs and the parties, but you still feel lonely. You going on trips with your spouse, but you still don't like him. Make it make sense. You don't like you. So it's going to be very hard for you to like them. And I see this all the time, especially when I'm working with couples. And this is not in my notes, so somebody clearly needed to get this message on today. The way it's given is being handed out to you. When I'm dealing with couples, one of the biggest issues that I find specifically with Black couples that are high performing, high achieving, is that they do not allow their spouse the grace and space to fail. They're controlling. Why? Because control is connected to fear. Fear is connected to a lack of trust. Lack of trust means you're avoidant. That's what it means. So you're trying to control the outcome and the narrative to play in the frame that you're comfortable with. Nothing grows in comfort. And the reason you cannot give that person space and grace to become the version of them God called them to be is because you've never given that gift to yourself. If anything, you're jealous that they have it. When the truth is you could have it too if you gave it to you, but you didn't. And so now we're dealing with all of the ruckus of your biology. So the trauma that you're living in, you are living in the trauma of your ancestors. You are. And you're living in that trauma because nobody is coming in and saying you're trauma bonding. What's your purpose? One of the greatest things I learned after going through that divorce was that I really needed to know what my purpose was before I ever got married. Because quite honestly, if you don't know what your purpose is, you don't even know who are the people you're going to need. It's like having a business and you don't know what you sell. You don't know what you solve. You don't know what you provide. Then how do you know that you need a secretary when maybe your first hire is a marketer? Maybe your first hire is a business consultant so you can put together a plan, but you'll never know if you don't know what you're called to. That's why you answering every single call that comes through your phone, because you don't know which call is the right one. That's why your relationships are failing. That's why you're hiring folk and they're not doing the job. You have no processes, no systems in place. And you're looking for people to do a job that God called you to do. The pain is not your fault, but healing is your responsibility. And you've got to be willing to look at the seed version of who you are if you're ever going to get into alignment. That is the cheat code to living a fulfilled life. So before you go and check off another goal or chase another goal, I want to give you 3 things that I need you to do. This assessment and checklist is called the inner alignment checklist. And I need you to do these 3 things. This is going to help you to start healing what success didn't fix. Because this is really the truth of what work really begins. Number 1, you got to check your why. Before you chase the next goal, ask, is this coming from a healed place or a hidden wound? Don't you send another text message to somebody that God did not call you to. Don't you tell another person you come into their event unless he told you to be there. Because the issue is, the reason you can't check your why, because you're too busy chasing others. Number 2, journal your answer. Is this coming from a healed place or a hidden wound? Decide and then journal it. Why? Because you have to be able to account. If you can't account for where you've been, you'll never understand why you're going in the way that you're going and why. Accounting is important. And be honest. That's why journaling is so powerful, because you don't have to tell it to someone else. You can just write it and you can be as honest as you want. And you can rip it up afterwards if you want, if you're afraid somebody gonna find it. But for once, give yourself 3 to 5 minutes to just be honest about how you feel. And then rewrite your value statement. Say out loud, I am not valuable because of what I do. I am valuable because of who I am. So I want you to say this value statement with me. Wherever you are, you can mumble it under your breath if you want to, if you're in a public place. I am not valuable because of what I do. I am valuable because of who I am. I am valuable because of who I am and not because of what I do. And I want you to repeat that sentence, those two sentences, until it becomes uncomfortable. Because that's the wound fighting the truth. And then last but not least, make room for rest. Put 30 minutes on your calendar this week and title it Just to Be. Put you on the calendar. No phone, no performance, just a space for you. Because you don't heal by doing more. You heal by being more of who you really are. That's the cheat code. It's not doing more, it's being more of who you really are. That is going to transform your life. It's transformed my life. And I don't subscribe to a lot of ideologies. Yes, I'm a church girl. Yes, I grew up in the word. Yes, and all the yeses. However, I have real, raw relationship with God. And it is not a rhetorical rhetoric. It's not a routine. It's not a religious colloquial recite. It's not a poem. It's not Easter speeches. No, it's raw and it's real. This is how I started my journey of healing. That is why I am very intentional, because by definition, the word purpose means intent. Google it. So when the old folks used to say, what is your intentions with my daughter, sir? They wanted to know, what is your purpose? What is your purpose with her? Because for all my male listeners that are married, that feel like that woman won't let me lead her, my wife won't, you don't know, she don't listen to me, she don't let me lead her. Let me help you understand. Leading people first starts with you being a person that learns from them. You can't lead who you haven't learned. And that's definitely not in my notes, but that's for somebody. So when she is not allowing you to lead, you need to ask yourself, what have I not learned about her? Because it's what you haven't learned that's leading her decision making. But if you learn her, leading her is a very natural thing, because leading people is connected to trust. So when I get men who tell me she doesn't allow me to lead, I ask, when did she stop trusting you? Because the truth of the matter is this: if you don't trust yourself, trusting others will never happen. And a lot of the problems that you tell people you have around trust, and we've heard this, I've said this plenty of times in my life, I have trust issues. It wasn't until I read this book by Iyanla Vanzant called Trust, it transformed my life in 2019. And in that book is when I learned that the trust issues I said I had with other people were really the trust issues that I had with myself. The most challenging person you will ever forgive is you. And I want to see you healed. I want to see you not operating from a space of needing others to complete you, but showing up complete. Because that's where life fulfillment really unfolds for you. Hustling keeps you from wholeness. So let hustle go. So man, listen, this episode has been so good. And my prayer is that you walk away knowing that your success is real, but so is your pain. And one does not cancel the other. Healing begins when you realize you were never broken. You just built success on a shaky foundation. But now it's time. It's time for you to rebuild on truth, on purpose, and in peace, not pieces. So if this episode hit home for you, man, take 5 minutes today. You've got 5 minutes. And I want you to write down the wounds that success didn't heal. You can put it notes in your phone where nobody can see it but you. You can jot it on a napkin in the car while you're waiting in the kids' school lines. But I want you to take 5 minutes today and just write down at least 3 things that success didn't heal that you thought it would. How about that? You thought it was going to heal it, but it didn't. And then I want you to text a trusted friend. And in that text message, I want you to say, hey, I don't need advice. Because you know your friends love to give advice, darling. You have an advisory board. So let them know up front that is not the context of why you're messaging them. I don't need advice. I just need space to unmute what I've been silencing. Power is truly found in your mouth. I say this all the time to people. The 2 things that affect your life is what you put in your mouth and what you allow to come out of your mouth. And some of us have been on mute for so long that the silence has been stressing us and it's been killing us. And if you don't have that space to say to a friend, trusted friend, keep in mind I said trusted, then I want you to come back here to this podcast. Every week, this is your space now. Your space to be with me, your space to be free, your space to know that guilt, blame, and shame do not reside here. And you can even feel free to catch me on social media, on all of my platforms. It's Lauren Jackson or Coach Lauren J. Message me there. Leave a review. But what I don't want you to do is leave your healing behind. I am looking forward to us healing together, us rising together, and us unmuting our mics together and on purpose. I'll see you next week. I hope that this blessed you. Share this with a friend. Leave us a comment. Let us know how did this segment bless you? What did you walk away with? And I'll see you next week. Same time, same place, right here on Unmute Your Mic podcast.